Are you looking for a way to save a tremendous amount of time when it comes to content calendars, market research, or even developing a market plan so that you can get into a marketplace and maximize your returns? Well, this particular type of solution works everywhere. And it's one of the secrets of larger organizations and how they're able to really launch a product and reduce their risk and cost associated with it. What I'm going to share with you today is the commissioned market research, and I'll explain to you what it is, how it works, what kind of things go into it, and whether or not it's the right solution for you. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Now, the commissioned market research is where a small organization, a group, maybe an association, will hire a marketer or a researcher, and usually both, in order to produce for them a body of work that focuses efforts, activities, and gains results from a specific market or target group. I've written commissioned reports on fleet card buyers, home owners facing foreclosure, technology sales managers, affluent homeowners, outdoor adventure schools, people who attend outdoor adventure schools, homesteading skills and small farm skills. I've created these reports over the years, and I create them in such a way that we can refresh them or update them. But basically, several corporations who all serve this audience, some large, some small, pool their money together, and then what I do is I assemble a team that goes out and determines the who, what, when, where, and why for that particular audience. Some of these commissioned reports are 500 pages, but it's one volume of information in a single location, and it saves the company a tremendous amount of time. Very often these reports will be used to determine how to launch a product, so it focuses on specific audience segments, and I use the Prism audience segments. We tend to use some standardized method to define the audience, and then we write specifically about them. We research who they are, what's their history, what's the language that they use, what kind of things influence their thinking. We answer what. So what are the marketing pieces they're receiving already? I'll even go and get on mailing lists in order to get copies of your competitors' marketing materials to include in this report. We'll talk about objectives and outcomes. What do they want to achieve? We'll talk about their current choices when it comes to purchases. Where do they currently spend their money? We'll then go into when, and this is what's very useful about a commissioned marketing report or research study, is it will actually go through and identify the key triggers that cause them to buy certain products or services. Now again, because it's a commissioned report with 3 to 5 Patreons, and the sense is that 3 to 5 people who don't know who each other are, it's all anonymous, are pooling your money together. My team goes out and does the research, but I do the research informed on their particular products and services. So for example, the fleet card buyers, when I did that research report, I did that for myself as an outside salesperson in that particular market, but I also did it for a trade association that was actually promoting biodiesel, a petroleum distributor who was selling biodiesel, and all these people, they didn't know who was doing who for what. But the end report gave me some key concepts about what persuades fleet managers, what persuades small businesses with vehicles and fuel needs, what persuades these different segments and audiences. And so with the final report, it's maybe 150 pages. It actually even included a lead generation paper that I wrote and actually used to create more than $1 million in fleet card transactions. So it's really a simplification of what's available, kind of a meta research paper, but in a way that you can go in and just quickly index things. And if you want to drill down, the original sources are cited. The other things are detailed there. But again, when I go gather this information, I can then come in and identify what triggers, what emotional needs, what gets the person to buy, when do they buy. Next, we also go into where do they get information about buying. So we look at mailing lists, news media, expert opinions. Where does this audience turn when they're looking for answers? So when I wrote the report for homeowners facing foreclosure, I wrote that for a property investor, and they wanted to know what types of topics their postcards needed in order to get someone to call in, and what was the emotional distress with a person who's facing foreclosure, so that when they were on the phone, they were able to communicate more appropriately with that person and get them to sign a contract or sell their house. Now, in that case, I actually included the laws, rules, and regulations in the market research, because you can't just call somebody up, especially if they're elderly, and pitch them on buying their house just because they have a financial problem. There's a lot of emotional distress there. So we actually outlined a few other real estate investors that have faced problems with the FTC or have faced problems with local legal or local real estate associations, and then ultimately had that included in the report. Now, what is this report doing? Again, it's helping the reader of the report, which could be a marketing department, it could be a individual promoting a product. It just helps them go in and find their information much quicker. If they want to find who should they be interviewing on their podcast, who should they be interviewing and referencing opinion of, they just go to the report. They just go to the commission. The where area will also include the media consumption. So are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? And what evidence do we have that they're on these platforms to find solutions? We address those things here. And then finally, we cover the why. Now, I have a background in sociology, psychology, and I'm looking at the behavioral characteristics of a particular audience, what causes them to basically make buying decisions. So the psychographics, their emotional needs, what are their needs and desires, what do they dream about, what are their current complaints and concerns. And we get those things documented. Now, again, this is 3 to 5 partners that come together. They usually don't know who each other are. So in the case of a trade association, there could be 10 businesses that are going to receive this report. And again, the report is anonymized so that we don't know who. We're not biasing the use of the report by having a specific company connected to it. But these 3 to 5 partners, one of them could be a trade association, and then there could be 10 parties involved. They all know who each other are, but they don't know who the other people are on the report. Now, why is this important? Is because if I was doing a research study with Nestle and Coca-Cola and some small drink company that's competing against the two, they may believe that these large corporations and the information I found about the audience for this large corporation is not applicable to them. But here's the secret of a commissioned market research paper. And if you're ever going to get one of these, you want to make sure this is happening. The research focuses on the behavior and modification of the audience. So that audience of 25,000 or 25 million, what is it that they use to make decisions? Where do they look for answers and credible information? Do they use Google search engine or Bing search engine? Are they on mailing list X or mailing list Y? All of that is relevant to the audience focus. So my background is also direct response marketing. The report is about a buying audience, not about the people who want to reach that buying audience. Because something that might work well for Nestle may not work well for a small organization, but out of the context of Nestle, the small organization may go into the research and say, oh, look, this is interesting. Our energy drink is similar to this large market product, but we have this all natural ingredients angle. And so what we're going to do is take this market here and see if do a lead generation campaign and see if there's anybody in that market that is interested in the natural ingredients. And then we're going to create our own mailing lists. See, what's powerful about a marketing commission is that it's meta research over a large demographic. It boils it down into key actions and points of test. I've even included large headline lists about the particular audience. So I wrote about the objections, and then I wrote responses to every objection, and then we wrote headlines that addressed every response. And so right there, you can start writing sales letters. But I also do in these case studies is interviews with each of the Patreon So it's a commission, just like an artwork, and the patrons are supporters of that commission. And ultimately, I will interview each of them. I'll interview their top salespeople. Depending on how deep you want to go, we've even gone as far as transcribing successful sales presentations and then extracting out of those the key points and elements that work really well, and then made talking points so that other salespeople could use those talking points. And that was very useful for me as a fleet manager. Someone selling fleet services to a fleet manager, I was able to use my conversations, digest those, extract those, and then match them up to why things worked. And then the next group could use it, benefited. So the trade association that was promoting biodiesel used my talking points in order to do presentations. And they also hired me to come in and do presentations, which then I transcribed and updated the report with. So finally, once the report is done, a lot of folks will say it's 500 pages. Well, the incredible thing today is I don't have to deliver a giant binder like I had in the past. There are tools today that would allow us to put these records into a repository, and you can then search the repository and extract elements that you need. And I'm even using a platform today that will allow you to not only extract these items, but as you build on these topics, to start building out your own content library. So let me give you a practical example. So I've done a research paper, and I've worked on this one recently, outdoor adventure schools. We're looking at certain audiences that will attend a survival class, a hiking, nature hike, or otherwise pay for outdoor skills. So this could be suburban individuals who enjoy hunting, but they want to increase their confidence with being in the outdoors. Or someone who's going to do the Appalachian Trail, and before they go on the Appalachian Trail, they want to prepare for storm-related emergencies as well as the common problems that could happen on trail. There's a lot of entry-level first aid type stuff, basic survival shelters, items like that. So I bring together that audience on paper. I identify what websites they currently go to. I identify what competitors are in the marketplace. I identify the topics and emotional needs of the users, and then I turned that into a draft report. It's 40, 50 pages long. And then from that draft report, I did the interviews with the primary trainers. And then from the primary trainers, I then assembled the application. So this is where this report becomes powerful. A stack of 250 pages. And again, when you're doing video and audio recording, that can be as much as 125 words a minute that gets transcribed, hundreds and hundreds of pages. I boil that down into what's the stick letter you're going to use, or what might a stick letter look like for after the sale. What would we do as far as social media posts? What would we do as far as a series of headlines? What is the frequently asked questions for the website? So in that particular case, now the client not only has this giant research report and all the information floating around that, and it's indexed and it's organized and it's easy to search, they now have a 12-month marketing calendar. They now have headlines. They now have content and talking points. They have topics for their editorial work. Do you see how this works? So rather than going on the internet and searching all these different websites, rather than going and reading these surveys, all this information is brought together into one place. It's organized. It's adapted. It's verified, because fact-checking is critical these days. And then it's finally organized in a way that you can just pick and choose. So what would you rather have your marketing team doing? Searching the internet and trying things, or going to qualified research, organized information, and extracting from your calendar? Now, again, I mentioned that there are a lot of tools today that will allow you to maybe put this on a SharePoint website and then add material to it. It might allow you to use Markdown and have a textual platform where you can start putting in your copy. You can start putting in your marketing tests, spreadsheets that show you the measures. What's valuable today is that this commission becomes a living document inside your organization you can build on for years. So like I said, there are 3 to 5 patrons, sometimes as many as 10 patrons, but the report is written about the audiences they want to reach. Now, the report's published, they've got a copy of the report. It branches off to go from audience to specific application inside the organization. So that could mean marketing calendars, a series of podcasts, special reports, all built on the audience research. Now, again, why is this important? Well, rather than spreading your marketing dollars over a large group, you're now able to focus on specific buyers in a marketplace. We're going to look at how many buyers are in the marketplace, what's their typical and average spend, and then ultimately what's the opportunity for a particular category of product or multiple categories of product. From there, you can then look at mailing lists, and based on those mailing lists, we're now validating information, and we're looking at lists about, buyers lists, catalog lists, response lists. Now, the buyers lists are going to be more powerful if there's a demographic match. You can quickly go through the report, create a lead generation piece, rent the mailing list, send it out, generate some leads, and start measuring. Do you see how powerful this is? So a lot of folks do not do marketing commissions, and a lot of agencies or freelance marketers don't know how to do a commission. So the key thing that I deliver is that I'm going to go ahead and organize it. I'm going to have a team put together that's going to go out and do the research. I'll have a second team that verifies the research. I'm going to have a lot of materials that are brought together in kind of a map of content rather than a giant narrative. A lot of these research studies have a narrative form, which is difficult to reference and drive through. So a map of content form would give you like a list of tactical approaches to a specific audience. It'll give you a list of emotional challenges, and then we'll use contextual links so that you can drill down into either the original report or you can drill down into additional details in the same report. So folks, this is a powerful way to save hundreds of even thousands of hours when you're targeting a specific audience. It creates a piece of material that is not only evergreen in the sense that your audiences don't change very much, but it can be easily updated as new competitors come online, as new marketing channels come online or media channels change, and then ultimately the return on investment is infinity because you're not searching so much. This is the big thing that I get on people for. You're not going to the internet and searching on stuff, because even people who are marketers don't realize that the results you get back from search engines or even artificial intelligence research models is based on what other people are doing to try to get to the top of a search engine, not the actual buyer. So the last point I'll make when we talk about that meta research, we'll actually go and commission a survey. So we'll do an ask campaign, or we'll do some kind of survey with that target audience using Facebook, using LinkedIn. But because we're doing it for the patrons of this particular commission, we're pooling their money so they all get better reach. But we're not cannibalizing their existing marketing campaigns. I'm not sure if you realize this, but when you go to some of these survey services, on your own advertising account, you could actually be diverting leads that would otherwise have engaged with your advertisement. When I get 3 to 5 people together, even 10 people together, they all pool in a certain amount of money. Could be $1,000 each, could be $5,000 each. I can go out and run an actual research study that is outside of your marketing medium, so we're not cannibalizing your reach, and we're not polluting your reach either. But we're able to then drill down into these Prism audience segments or specific audiences on social media platforms or on search engines or different things like that, and then gather a better control, a better idea of what motivates people to buy. And what's so interesting about the way that we're doing this, it doesn't tip off your competitors that you're looking at a new market. The biggest investor, and I say investment seriously because you're investing in saving time, effort, and you can get specialized research talent. But the investment comes when you have been able to sneak up on a competitor, when you've been able to jump ahead of them in the market because you can reach these buyers in a more targeted way. And then finally, we're focusing your marketing dollars on a specific audience with specific tests rather than just throwing spaghetti against the wall. So and frankly, a lot of brand advertisers don't like me to do these research studies because it quickly breaks down the BS associated with brand advertising and allows you to go directly to buyers. So think about this. If you're a real estate investor, if you're a mortgage refinancer, if you're a financial services company, and you know exactly how to reach the emotional needs of a homeowner facing foreclosure, you're more likely to get actually paid. There's a debt collector on that particular one. Make sure you actually get paid to make sure that you are compliant and to make sure that you can ultimately persuade an audience to take action with you over somebody else. If you have questions about commissioned research studies, whether you want to write one in-house or you want somebody to write one for you, visit me at www.adbriefing.co.uk. Go to the contact page and ask a question. I'm Justin Hitt with the Ad Briefings newsletter. I've written market research studies that are used domestically in the United States, as well as those that are used internationally. But essentially, all my clients for these have been commercial interest publishers, big companies, small companies, new product launches, revising existing product launches, preparing to rewrite the marketing plan, preparing for venture capital. We have quite a few venture capitalists that do this. But again, every one of them is saving multiples of the investment, and these are usually 3 to 4 to 5 figure deals. But again, it's material you're going to use for years to come. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I can be reached at www.justinhitt.com is my editorial site, my main biography site, or you can reach me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. And be thinking about it. How can you use commissioned market research papers? How can you write them yourself? How can you organize information better so that you can use the knowledge you have about prospective clients? And ultimately, how can you prosper with words that sell?